Hello, everyone. I'm here to introduce the winner of the Joseph W. Cullen Memorial Award, given this year to recognize individuals' distinguished achievement in continued national tobacco control efforts through research, through the development of prevention and cessation programs with wide-reaching public health impact, or through public policy and advocacy initiatives. And I'm delighted to introduce you to this year's award winner, my colleague, Dr. Paul Cinciripini. Paul serves as a professor as well as the Margaret and Ben Love Chair in Clinical Cancer Care in honor of Dr. Charles A. Lemater at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. Paul, welcome to this interview. It's my pleasure as your nominator to ask you a few questions about your background, your research, and some of your achievements. So first of all, how and why did you first become interested in cancer prevention and control?
So I guess you can tell by my CV, I've been around a very long time. And I really started off with a pretty strong interest in cardiovascular disease and within there, tobacco. And over time, that kept developing until I was able to come to MD Anderson and really turn my attention strongly on tobacco control in a community and in a setting outside the laboratory. Some of my early work was done inside the laboratory, looking at nicotine psychopharmacology. And then that evolved into clinical trials and developing behavioral methods and pharmacological and behavioral combination treatments. And when I came to MD Anderson, things really started to take off and blossom in that area. And I became linked with many more people of like minds around tobacco control and prevention. So that's really kind of the evolution of it. I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you at all, Ernie, at this point.
Tell me, what has been your greatest personal scientific contribution to tobacco control?
Boy, this is not just a recency effect, but so I've done, I don't know, 25, large scale clinical trials in my career. But I think the one that I really feel that will make the longest impact and contribution is the one that we've actually just finished, which was a smart design trial looking at a variety of methods, pharmacological behavioral methods to initially treat an individual, a smoker, with two of our very best treatments, varenicline or combination nicotine replacement. And then if they failed to quit, giving them various other combinations for which they could try. To our knowledge, no one has really ever done that kind of trial. And I think it's going to open up new avenues for providers to look at their treatment options in a different way than they had before. It was just, okay, we put them on this drug. If they fail, we put them on this drug. And if they fail, well, now what do we do? So this is going to have, I think, an amplifying effect on how we see treatments, because we started looking at medication combinations in ways that made clinical sense that had not been previously done in a single clinical trial. So I think that one is probably going to be, I anticipate, one of my better contributions.
Very good, thank you. And you here at Anderson, we work a lot as teams. And so in addition to your personal contribution, what do you think has been the greatest achievement together as a team leader with your colleagues?
So people who know me and have heard me talk about this coming to MD Anderson in the past realized that coming to MD Anderson was an opportunity for me to do research um, in a way that I had not previously experienced or anticipated. And one of the best outcomes of that was being able to form a group of tobacco researchers here at MD Anderson, starting with postdoctoral fellows and junior faculty members, and now many of them who are more senior faculty members. And that has been one of my most proudest achievements, is that we have a cadre of 5 or 6 very high level functioning faculty and then trainees and postdocs who all work together. We work as a team. We have, my specialization is in psychopharmacology, clinical trials. We have neuroscience represented. We have behavioral pharmacology represented. We have e-cigarette represented. We have genetics of tobacco dependence represented. And then we have other behavioral methods like as texting and other more community-based or wide-scale treatment applications represented. So that team is just, if it weren't for that team, what I've done in my career in the last 15 years would amount to very little. It was really having that kind of group to work with that accelerated everything for all of us, really.
That sounds like a great environment that you created there. Tell me, in the course of your career, how has tobacco cessation improved? Particularly, either from an institutional perspective here at MD Anderson or more broadly, what's changed in the course of your career?
That's a very interesting question, because I have to answer that in 2 ways. At MD Anderson, in particular, when I came here, tobacco control, and this is not to be disparaging, but tobacco control pretty much consisted of educational things, handing out materials, educating the public. That was what the approach that this burgeoning new prevention area in behavioral science consisted of. Now, what you see is, very sophisticated clinical trials being done in the community to look at pharmacological and behavioral treatments. As a whole, as a field, on the one hand, we've made great advances in taking what we've developed in the clinical trials and trying to get that out into the community. But I have to temper that a bit, because I think that we've not done enough in 2 places. One is, if you look at drug development, look at how many medications we have for hypertension, for hypercholesterolemia. Look at the choices. Look at what you can provide if someone doesn't respond, or if you want to do combination treatments. That's not the same in tobacco. In tobacco, we have a handful. We have 3. And then, 1 family of nicotine replacement products. We do very creative things as clinicians to try to make more out of it and utilize other medications that we repurpose for tobacco. But I think that's where we have not, our growth has been stunted there. And then the second thing is that while we do get treatments out to the community through mass means like the Quit Line, in particular, the offerings of our very best treatments are very limited. Very few people, less than 1/3 of the people, take up evidence-based treatment, and less than half of those take up both behavioral counseling and pharmacotherapy. So you're not going to get the kind of treatment that you would get in a high-level clinical trial when you simply call a Quit Line. And that's, again, not to be disparaging about Quit Lines because of their reach. It's just that they're so terribly underfunded and understaffed that they can't provide that level of treatment. And that's really what we should be doing in the future, is getting what we can do really well and getting that as far out in the community as possible would be my one of the things I'd like to see happen in my career.
Great. That leads me to my next question, which is personally, what's your next challenge and why does it still motivate you in your career?
So I would like to say that this came as a consequence of COVID, but it did not. It came actually in advance. I read an article in the New England Journal of Medicine, probably about 5 years ago. And it was a physician researcher who was saying, boy, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could do all of our clinical trials virtually? If we could collect our blood samples, if we don't have to have people come in, imagine the reach that we would get. Because, very few clinical trials are enormously expensive. And when you want to do something on a broad community level involving thousands of people, you need, several sites and an economy of scale if you can get it. So when I read that article, I was just very intrigued. I said, boy, I'd really like to do that. And we started thinking about a large-scale virtual clinical trial several years ago. And we actually began the trial before COVID, but when COVID came, we were ready to hit the ground running. And now we have a trial with a target enrollment of 2,000 people. That's absolutely unheard of for a single center to be able to do these multiple repeats. High level, medications are coming and going. We're doing medical evaluations over the internet virtually. We collect genetic samples. We prepare a kit. We give them a smartphone for which they can communicate with us. It's a turnkey operation, and I think when we're done, what I'd like to do is, in addition to publishing the results, is publish the platform. Here, take this. Now anybody can do this. That's I guess everything, you wait long enough, good things happen at the end, and I think that's where we are right now. But I'm very excited about the idea of doing virtual clinical trials in this area. I think it's just going to change the way we do things, and it's going to amplify what any one individual researcher can do.
Very good. So. You're making my job so easy because you're leading me one question into the next. The next question is, what's your most important and valuable lesson learned over the course of your career? This is really an important role for us more senior individuals to pass on the shared wisdom. Anything in particular that you'd like to highlight?
Don't let anybody say no to you. Don't let anybody tell you that it can't be done. Don't feel all the time that you have to simply work inside and color in the lines when you're trying to, advance your science. Don't be foolish, but, think creatively. I had one young researcher once asked me, some things about what I was doing, and I said, I have the coolest job in the world. I get paid to think about things and then think about them in such a way that I can convince other people to give me money to be able to do it. And I think that a good idea goes a long way. A so-so mundane idea can go okay, particularly in our very conservative, peer-reviewed scientific community. But a good, solid, creative idea can take you a long way.
Okay, and one more. How would you explain the importance of our field to a young person who's considering it for their career?
Well, I guess I go back to another anecdote. When I first started at MD Anderson, I had a friend of mine who was one who was a surgeon and another one who was actually a virologist, and we were at dinner one day, and in a matter of words, particularly the surgeon said to me, one said, this is what you're doing in prevention is going to make many times over what we're able to do in the exact moment of treatment in doing a surgical procedure, because we can do one individual at a time, but you can prevent multiple and multiple and multiple individuals from ever having to come to us. And if you think about it for a moment, if you take a effective treatment, and I'm just going to pick 30%. That's on the high side, but we can definitely get 30% of the people to quit in a long-term follow-up with a good, solid treatment. If you had a procedure or a medication that 30% of the time, if you just did this, the cancer would be absolutely gone. That would be pretty remarkable. And now if you amplify that across all the people that don't actually have cancer and think we can effectively reduce those individuals' opportunity to get cancer by 30%, I think that's a pretty big impact and a reason to keep doing it.
Great, thank you. And my last question, a little bit different than the ones that preceded it. In the field of cancer prevention, many people are very socially aware and very self-conscious and self-aware of their impact, in a whole variety of ways. And yet your vehicle is as large as my house. Tell us a little bit about your mode of transportation and why you selected that.
Oh, I love my truck. It's a Ram 1500, Texas A&M maroon. I didn't go to Texas A&M, but both my kids did. And when I first moved to Texas, I couldn't understand why people were driving pickup trucks. And when we bought a house out in the hill country, I needed a pickup truck, so I bought one. And I will never drive another vehicle other than a pickup truck. And the pickup trucks you buy today are pretty much like luxury cars with a big bed on the back. So yeah, you won't get me into a sedan ever again, never. And I live in Texas, so I want to blend in with the culture because I love living in Texas.
There you go. Important to always remain culturally aware.
Absolutely.
Okay, Paul. Well, thank you so much for this time together. I appreciate you sharing some of your insights and wisdom gained with our audience.
Oh, you're welcome, Ernie. Thanks so much for doing the interview, and thanks for your leadership in our Division of Cancer Prevention and throughout our institution. I like to say that we're a small part of a very large totem pole, but it's a very large totem pole that we happen to be a part of, and it's a good feeling. Very good feeling.
Congratulations again on your winning this year's Cullen Award.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening.